Good afternoon, students. Today we'll start with the cephalosporins. Now coming to the introduction of the cephalosporins. Cephalosporins are semi-synthetic antibiotics which are derived from the Cephalosporin C, which is obtained from the fungus Cephalosporium. Now the nucleus consists of beta-lactam ring which is fused to the dihydrothiazine ring. Now this nucleus is known as 7-aminocephalosporanic acid. It is a beta-lactam ring which is fused to the dihydrothiazine ring. Now by addition of different side chains at 7th position of the beta-lactam ring, the spectrum of activity can be altered. While by addition of different side chain at position 3 of the dihydrothiazine ring, pharmacokinetics can be altered. So in this way, large number of semi-synthetic compounds have been developed. Now these cephalosporins are conventionally divided into 4 generations. The division is based on chronological sequence of development and the antibacterial spectrum. So this is the structure of the cephalosporin, which contains the 7-aminocephalosporanic acid. This is the nucleus of the cephalosporin, where the beta-lactam ring is fused to the dihydrothiazine ring. You can see that at the 7th position of the beta-lactam ring, various side chains are attached, which will alter the spectrum of the activity. And at position 3 of the dihydrothiazine ring, different side chains will be attached, which will affect the pharmacokinetics. Now coming to the classification of the cephalosporins. Yes, so this is the classification of the cephalosporins. They are divided into 5 generations. You can see that the 5th generation, there are 5 generations. Now coming to the 1st generation cephalosporins. They are divided into parenteral and oral. The parenteral is cefazolin, oral is cephalexin. 2nd generation, you can see parenteral is cefuroxime, cefuroxetine, oral is cefaclor, cefprozil. 3rd generation cephalosporins, in that parenteral are cefotaxime, ceftriaxone, ceftriaxone, ceftazidime, cefoperazone. In oral, you can see cefixime, cefpodoxime, cefibutane. Then in the 4th generation, parenteral preparations are available. These are the cefepime, cefpyrone. There are no oral preparations. In the 5th generation, parenteral are the ceftaroline, fosamil, and the ceftobiprole, medocaryl. So these are the newer cephalosporins which are added in the 5th generation. These are the ceftaroline, fosamil, and the ceftobiprole. So just now we have seen the classification of the cephalosporins. Now going to the further part. Now coming to the mechanism of action of the cephalosporins. Now cephalosporins are the beta-lactam antibiotics. So they have similar mechanism of action just like the penicillins which you have studied in the previous class. Now cephalosporins, as they are beta-lactam antibiotics, they interfere with the transpeptidation reaction of the bacterial cell wall synthesis. So this transpeptidation reaction is a very important reaction required for the cell wall synthesis in the bacteria. Bacterial cell wall consists of rigid outer layer which completely surrounds the cytoplasmic membrane. It maintains the cell integrity, prevent the cell lysis from high osmotic pressure. The cell wall is composed of complex cross-linked polymer of polysaccharides and peptides known as peptidoglycan. Polysaccharides consist of alternating amino sugars, N-acetylmuramic acid and N-acetyl glucosamine. 5-amino acid peptide is linked to the N-acetylmuramic acid sugar. Now this peptide terminates in D-alanyl D-alanine. Now penicillin binding protein is a transpeptidase enzyme which is located in the cell membrane and removes the terminal alanine of one peptide strand in the process of forming cross-link with the glycine of adjacent strand. This is known as the transpeptidation reaction. This is known as the transpeptidation reaction, where there is a removal of terminal alanine of one peptide strand in the process of forming cross-link with the glycine of adjacent strand. This cross-linking gives cell wall its rigidity. So cross-linking is essential to give the cell wall its rigidity. Now the beta-lactam antibiotics, all of them are structural analog of the D-alanine, which is the terminal amino acid. And so these beta-lactam antibiotic, as they are structural analogs of the D-alanine, they bind covalently to the active site of the penicillin binding proteins. They bind covalently to the active site of the penicillin binding proteins, but cephalosporins bind to different penicillin binding protein than those which bind the penicillin. So they have a different penicillin binding protein where they get bind. Now after the beta-lactams bind the transpeptidase enzyme at the penicillin binding protein site, it inhibits the transpeptidase enzyme. So there is inhibition of the transpeptidase enzyme, resulting in inhibition of transpeptidation reaction, thus halting the peptidoglycan synthesis, and so there is no synthesis of peptidoglycan and cell wall is not formed, and this leads to the cell death. This is the bactericidal action. So in this way there is no formation of cell wall, and hence there is a cell death, because as you know, the functions of the cell wall is to protect the bacteria, and in this way cell death occurs and bactericidal action takes place. Now beta-lactam antibiotics, they exert cidal action when bacteria are actively multiplying and synthesizing the cell wall. So during active multiplication and during synthesis of the cell wall, the action is maximum. So as you can see, this is the diagram depicting the cell wall synthesis, bacterial cell wall synthesis, how the cell wall synthesis takes place by the transpeptidation reaction, which is very essential for the cell wall synthesis. And beta-lactam antibiotics inhibit this transpeptidation reaction by inhibiting the enzyme transpeptidase. So in this way cell wall synthesis does not take place and cell lysis occur or cell death take place. Now coming to the mechanism of resistance of the cephalosporins, how do the bacteria develop resistance to the cephalosporins? Now the resistance is acquired and it is due to the alteration in the target proteins, that is the penicillin binding protein or where the cephalosporins bind. So these target proteins are altered, reducing the affinity for the drug. So the drug cannot bind to these target proteins because of alteration. Second, impermeability to the antibiotic. The antibiotic cannot enter the cell, bacterial cell, or there is efflux of the drug. The drug is pumped out from the bacteria. And the third point is elaboration of the enzyme cephalosporinase by the bacteria, which will destroy the drug, which will destroy the cephalosporins. So elaboration of the cephalosporinase enzyme by the bacteria which destroy the cephalosporins. So in this way bacteria develop resistance to the cephalosporin. This is an acquired resistance. But the incidence of resistance is low, but still there are very much many bacteria have developed the resistance to the cephalosporins also. Coming to the spectrum of action, now the first generation cephalosporins are more active against the gram-positive organisms. Streptococci, Staphylococci, Gonococci, Meningococci, Corynebacterium diphtheria, Haemophilus, Influenzae, Clostridia and Actinomyces. High activity is seen against the Klebsiella, Moraxella and the E. coli. Nowadays resistance has been developed and hence they are susceptible to the beta-lactamase or the cephalosporinase produced by the Staphylococci and the H. influenzae. So in this way the resistance has developed to the first generation cephalosporins. Now coming to the second generation cephalosporin spectrum of the action, they are active against the gram-negative organism with some activity against the anaerobes as well. Less active against the gram-positive organisms. The spectrum consists of Streptococcus pyogenes, Streptococcus pneumoniae, Staph aureus, Haemophilus influenzae, Moraxella, Klebsiella, E. coli, Proteus. Resistance has they have developed resistance is there to the gram-negative beta-lactamases. They are resistant to the gram-negative beta-lactamases. They are active against the anaerobes but not the Bacteroides fragilis. So second generation cephalosporins are resistant to the gram-negative cephalosporinase or the beta-lactamase and they are quite active against the gram-negative organisms with less activity against the gram-positive organisms. More activity is seen against the gram-negative organisms as well as some anaerobes but not Bacteroides fragilis. Now coming to the spectrum of action of the third generation cephalosporins, all are active against the gram-negative Enterobacteria like the E. coli, Citrobacter, Klebsiella, Enterobacter, Salmonella, Shigella, Proteus, Serratia. Few members inhibit Pseudomonas also. They are less active against the gram-positive cocci and the anaerobes, including the Bacteroides fragilis. They are highly resistant to the beta-lactamases produced from the gram-negative bacteria. That is the cephalosporinase in this case produced from the gram-negative bacteria. Some drugs are susceptible to the beta-lactamase produced by the Salmonella and the Bacteroides fragilis. So some third generation compounds are susceptible to beta-lactamase or the cephalosporinase which are produced by the Salmonella and the Bacteroides fragilis. Now coming to the spectrum of action of the fourth generation compounds, fourth generation cephalosporins. They are highly resistant to the beta-lactamases produced by the gram-negative organisms. Hence they show good activity against the bacteria resistant to the third generation cephalosporins. Pseudomonas Staph aureus also inhibited but not the methicillin resistant Staph aureus. They show more efficacy against the gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria than the third generation compounds. So the fourth generation cephalosporins, they are highly resistant to the beta-lactamases which are produced by the gram-negative organisms, show good activity against the bacteria resistant to the third generation cephalosporins. Pseudomonas is inhibited, Staph aureus is also inhibited but not methicillin resistant Staph aureus. More efficacy is seen against the gram-positive and the gram-negative bacteria than the third generation compounds. Now coming to the spectrum of action of the fifth generation compounds. Now fifth generation compounds are active against the methicillin resistant Staph aureus and the other bacteria which have developed resistance to the penicillins like the Streptococcus pneumoniae, Enterococcus faecalis. However, they are not effective against those organisms which are resistant to the extended spectrum penicillins or the ampicillin. They are not effective against those organisms which are resistant to the extended spectrum penicillins or the ampicillin. Cephalosporins are effective against wide range of organisms. Cephalosporins are effective against a wide range of organisms but not Mycobacteria and Chlamydia. So these are exceptions while most of the organisms are covered by the cephalosporins. Now coming to the therapeutic uses of cephalosporins. Now the therapeutic uses will be taken according to the generations. Now the uses of the first generation compounds. First generation compounds are used as alternative to penicillin in cutaneous infections, soft tissue infections due to the gram-positive organisms caused by like the streptococci, staphylococci. Then upper respiratory tract infections like the sinusitis, otitis media, pharyngitis, tonsillitis due to the gram-positive organisms. And surgical prophylaxis, and for the surgical prophylaxis, cefazolin can be used. So these are the uses of the first generation compounds, mainly for the gram-positive infections caused by the gram-positive organisms. Now coming to the second generation compound, they are used in the upper respiratory tract infections like the otitis media, sinusitis, pharyngitis, tonsillitis caused by the gram-negative organisms where the oral cefuroxime can be used. Then urinary and soft tissue infections caused by the gram-negative organisms. Mixed infection, that is caused by both gram-negative as well as anaerobes. Mixed infections of the abdomen and the pelvis. So intra-abdominal infection like peritonitis, appendicitis, then pelvic infections like the infections of the urinary tract, genitourinary tract, pelvic organs like the cervicitis, gynecological infections. Then gonorrhea due to the penicillinase producing organism. Gonorrhea due to the penicillinase producing organisms. So penicillin is producing gonococcal infections. So gonorrhea caused by these organisms. Here they are combined, the second generation compound can be combined with the azithromycin. In combination with azithromycin they are used for treatment of gonorrhea due to penicillinase producing gonococci. Now coming to the therapeutic uses of the third generation cephalosporins. Third generation cephalosporins are used in severe gram-negative infections. Here they can be used alone or with combination with the aminoglycosides. So the infections are respiratory tract infections, urinary tract infections, soft tissue infections by the gram-negative organisms, septicemia caused by gram-negative organisms, then pyogenic meningitis. In pyogenic meningitis, empirical therapy can be started with cefotaxime in combination with vancomycin, and later on, if the organism is Pseudomonas, then for Pseudomonas you can give ceftazidime combined with the gentamicin. Then in pyelonephritis due to gram-negative organisms, these drugs can be used. Community acquired pneumonia due to penicillin resistance caused by the penicillin resistant Streptococcus pneumoniae. So community acquired pneumonia caused by the penicillin resistant Streptococcus pneumoniae, here you can use. Then gonorrhea, syphilis and chancroid caused by the penicillinase producing organisms, ceftriaxone can be given. Then typhoid fever, multi-drug resistant typhoid fever. Here you can give the third generation cephalosporin. These are the ceftriaxone and the cefoperazone. Now what are the advantages of the cephalosporins? Quick defervescence is seen in 2 to 3 days. Early cure of symptoms is seen. Low risk of relapse and complications. There is a lower risk of relapse and complication. Early cure of symptoms. and quick difference of the bacteria in 2 to 3 days is seen. Then continuing with the therapeutic uses of the third generation cephalosporins. In typhoid, there is a prevention of carrier state. They can be used to treat the carriers of typhoid. Cephalosporins are mainly used to treat multi-drug resistant Salmonella typhi infection. Multi-drug resistant Salmonella infection, that means what is multi-drug resistance? Resistance to chloramphenicol, ampicillin, cotrimoxazole and fluoroquinolones. That is known as multi-drug resistant Salmonella infection. Then in meningitis caused by meningococci and Haemophilus influenzae. Then mixed infections, aerobic and anaerobic infections in patients of cancer, seen in cancer or neutropenic patients, colorectal surgery, undergoing colorectal surgery, and in obstetric complication. Obstetric complications, after that you have, after the obstetric complication generally there is a mixed infections, and whenever the obstetric infection is there, it is a mixed infection caused by gram-negative aerobic bacilli plus anaerobic infection, anaerobic organisms. So in this you can give the cephalosporins. Then continuing further with the uses of the third generation compounds, septicemia is caused by gram-negative organisms. Then nosocomial infection, that is hospital acquired infections. Nowadays resistance has developed to the third generation compound by the organisms causing hospital acquired infections. So fourth and fifth generation compounds are alternative, and if you want to give the third generation compound, you have to combine it with the vancomycin. Then next use is in prophylaxis and treatment of infections in neutropenic patients. Neutropenic patients are the patients of cancer, HIV infections and other neutropenic patients. So here the third generation cephalosporins are combined with the aminoglycoside. Now coming to the therapeutic uses of the fourth generation cephalosporins. These drugs are reserved for the hospital acquired resistant infection. Hospital acquired resistant infections where the fourth generation compounds may be combined with the vancomycin. So vancomycin is used in combination with the fourth generation cephalosporins for treatment of the hospital acquired infections, and other uses are same as the third generation cephalosporins. Now coming to the fifth generation cephalosporins. The therapeutic uses of the fifth generation cephalosporins. Now they are used for the treatment of complicated skin and soft tissue infections. Complicated skin infection, soft tissue infection caused by the MRSA. MRSA is methicillin resistant Staph aureus. Then second use is in community acquired pneumonia due to penicillin resistant Streptococcus pneumoniae. And third use is hospital acquired infection due to Enterococcus faecalis. Hospital acquired infections due to Enterococcus faecalis. So these are important uses of the fifth generation cephalosporins. Now coming to the adverse drug reactions of the cephalosporins. Pain is a common adverse reaction seen after intramuscular injection. Thrombophlebitis of the injected vein. Then diarrhea. Diarrhea is seen with orally administered compound with cefalexin and cefixime. Hypersensitive reactions are similar to the penicillin. These are the rash, anaphylactic reaction, angioedema, asthma, urticaria can be seen. Cross reactivity with penicillin is seen, and hence emergency drug should be kept at hand. Those with history of allergy to penicillin should not be given the cephalosporin. Then nephrotoxicity is seen, and it is increased with the pre-existing renal disease or in chronic renal failure. And additional administration of aminoglycoside or loop diuretic will worsen the condition. So nephrotoxicity is worsened if aminoglycoside is combined or loop diuretic is given. Then bleeding. Bleeding is due to the hypoprothrombonemia, common in patients with the cancer, intra-abdominal infections, or in renal failure. So bleeding can be seen in these patients when cephalosporins are given, especially in renal failure or in cancer patients, and this is due to the hypoprothrombonemia. Then neutropenia and thrombocytopenia can be seen with ceftazidime. Disulfiram-like reaction with alcohol has been reported with the cefoperazone. So alcohol is contraindicated when cefoperazone is given. Otherwise there can be disulfiram-like reaction. So these are the important adverse reactions of the cephalosporins. So we have finished with the cephalosporins. We have seen the mechanism of action. We have seen the structure, chemistry, classification of the cephalosporins, mechanism of action, spectrum of action, therapeutic uses, adverse reactions. Now coming to the monobactams. So the prototype is aztreonam. Aztreonam is a prototype of the monobactams. Monobactams are also known as atypical beta-lactam antibiotic. Atypical beta-lactam antibiotic because the structure contains only one ring. Hence the name monobactam, and that's why they are atypical. Mechanism of action is similar to the other beta-lactam antibiotics, that is inhibition of the bacterial cell wall synthesis. The spectrum of action, mainly the gram-negative enteric bacilli, Haemophilus influenzae, Pseudomonas. There is no action seen on the gram-positive cocci and the fecal anaerobes. Now, aztreonam is a beta-lactam antibiotic with spectrum similar to the aminoglycosides because mainly the spectrum contains gram-negative enteric bacilli, Haemophilus influenzae, Pseudomonas without any action on the gram-positive cocci and the fecal anaerobes. Aztreonam is resistant to gram-negative beta-lactamase. Indication of aztreonam: hospital-acquired infection, hospital-acquired resistant infection in urinary tract infection, biliary infections, gastrointestinal infection, and infections of the female genital tract. So these are, in these infections, aztreonam is preferred. It can be also used in patients which are allergic to the penicillin or the cephalosporin. So it is an alternative to the patients who are allergic to cephalosporins and penicillins. So in that, aztreonam is a good choice. Now coming to the carbapenems. Carbapenems are the imipenem, meropenem, doripenem, ertapenem. These are the broad spectrum beta-lactam antibiotics. The spectrum includes gram-positive organisms, Enterobacteria, Pseudomonas, Listeria, anaerobes like Bacteroides fragilis and Clostridium difficile. They are resistant to the beta-lactamases, inhibit the penicillinase producing Staph aureus, but not methicillin resistant Staph aureus. So methicillin resistant Staph aureus is not included in the spectrum. Now coming to the limiting feature of the carbapenems. Imipenem is a prototype. There occurs a rapid hydrolysis of the imipenem by the enzyme dihydropeptidase 1, which is located on the brush border of the renal tubular cells. So there is a because of the rapid hydrolysis, the action is very short, gets rapidly hydrolyzed. So to prevent this, it can be combined with celestine. It can be combined with the celestine. Now celestine is a reversible inhibitor of the dihydropeptidase 1. Celestine protects hydrolysis of the imipenem and prevents or inhibits the hydrolysis of the imipenem. So there is a protection of the imipenem because it inhibits the enzyme dihydropeptidase 1. The pharmacokinetics of both the drugs are matching. That means the half-life of both the drugs is same, around 1 hour. So it is a rational combination. Imipenem and celestine are generally combined together and it is a rational combination. Now what are the uses of the imipenem and the celestine? They are used for the treatment of the hospital-acquired serious infections like the respiratory tract infection, urinary tract infection, abdominal infections. pelvic infections, skin and soft tissue infections. Skin and soft tissue infection, which are the various hospital acquired infections. Then they are used for the treatment of infections in neutropenic patients, in cancer patients, in HIV patients. In Pseudomonas infection also they can be given. It is combined with the gentamicin in Pseudomonas infection. Now coming to the side effects of the imipenem, seizure has been reported, diarrhea, vomiting and hypersensitivity reactions. So these are the various side effects of the imipenem. So with this we finish cephalosporins, carbapenems and the Aztreonam monobactams. So with this I finish today's lecture. Thank you.